দর্শক স্বাগত চ্যানেল 24 এর আজকের অনুষ্ঠানে জানতে চাই শুনতে চাইতে আজ আমরা কথা বলবো বাংলাদেশ ও ডেনমার্কের দ্বিপাক্ষিক সম্পর্ক নিয়ে। আর এই বিষয়ে কথা বলার জন্য স্টুডিওতে অতিথি হিসেবে উপস্থিত আছে রয়্যাল ড্যানিশ অ্যাম্বাসেডর মিকেল হেমনেটি উইন্টার। ওয়েলকাম টু দ্য শো এক্সেলেন্সি।
Thank you very much.
If I'm not wrong, this is the first appearance in any television show of Bangladesh.
It is, so thank you for taking me in.
To start with the show, I would really like to know the recent status between the relationship, bilateral relationship of both the countries.
Yes, I'm very happy to be able to say that the relations between Denmark and Bangladesh is both broad and deep. And I mean that in terms of historically, Denmark was one of the first countries to recognize Bangladesh as an independent country. And we have built on that confidence that we obtained at the time, both through development cooperation, which we have had since the early 70s and up to now, focusing on poverty reduction and women's position, economic empowerment, on governance, on human rights, on many aspects of developing Bangladesh as a nation and its people, but also a very strong commercial and trade-wise relation that is actually getting stronger following the path of development that Bangladesh has gone through with a very successful economic growth and employment. And Denmark, we are very happy that we have been part of that path. Politically, we are friends and meet often at high levels. And culturally, I also see a lot of things happening in art and in people's exchange, university student, people's visiting the two countries. So it's a real treat to be representing Denmark and Bangladesh because there's so many things to build on and so many things to further develop. Dare to say that Denmark has a good name in Bangladesh, I believe, so that's what I hear.
Of course you do. So, Excellency, as you say, there is a long partnership going on for a long time. So are the priorities same now, or it's been changed? Because there was a time when poverty reduction is one of the major issues. Now, women empowerment also been done. Though it's not satisfactory, we got a lot to do. So what are the sectors in your priority right now?
Interestingly enough, we have had a very progressive development in Bangladesh, and many things, the Millennium Development Goals and all that, Bangladesh has shown really impressive results. And there's still work to do, and we have been experiencing, for example, in the countryside, women in the agriculture part, we are still feeling that we can make a difference. We are expanding a bit that area also to assist and cooperate in the climate-prone areas. As we all know, Bangladesh is a very vulnerable country for the climate changes, so we are trying to build on our experiences in different agriculture areas, especially again with focus on women who are vulnerable, and assist in getting them more resilient and use their skills to be able to adapt to this new environment. And that, you can say, it's more of the same we did before, but also new things coming in. And then if the priorities are changing, it's because we are actually doing more business-to-business development now because of higher status of Bangladesh in the world economy and its own development.
So what are the priority business areas at the moment? Like we have the RMG, apart from that.
Yes. RMG, of course, I have to mention it because it's an important one. Pharmaceuticals, but also machinery. Denmark is a very strong technology-driven economy, but also services. We are the biggest shipping nation in the world, and we are doing a lot of the shipping for Bangladesh. And Bangladesh, of course, is exporting many of both products in the garment sector, but also in other agricultural areas.
How can you really improve by your experience?
Bangladesh is an incredible lush country, so much potential for developing, and the resources in terms of human or people depending on it is big. So I think more skills, more use of knowledge of how to increase the efficiency and productivity. There's still a lot of potential that can raise income for the lowest paid people because the fertility of Bangladesh is enormous.
Yes.
It's something you actually experience when you visit the country outside, anywhere outside Dhaka. Is amazing how fertile this country is, how much water there is to be utilized. Water is, of course, also a threat.
Yes.
So this is also something we are working with Bangladesh, trying to find out how to control these waterways, because there are so many both threatening but also potential ways of using water here.
Right. So have you went to out of Dhaka, and what are the places and what's your experience?
Having the privilege to travel both to Rajshahi, to Dinjapur, to Cox's Bazar, to Chittagong, and to other places, to Borisar. So quite a diversity of, and different geographically.
Yeah.
And what strikes me is, first of all, the fertility, but also the energy that people have. It's amazing how much people are going about their business and how focused they are on creating income. It's a very populated country. How beautiful the nature is, and how friendly people are also towards foreigners, how welcoming they are. I've been traveling both alone with my wife and with high delegations, and it's the same reception we get everywhere. It's a pleasure to be.
We do a lot of shipping stuff with Denmark, and as Bangladesh is a coastal country, if I'm not wrong. In the particular sector of shipping, how we can learn and expedite ourselves from you?
I think by also having the Danish businesses here, I always believe that a country that wants to strengthen its economic base, exporting to make money and to make economic growth, you also need to be very open to foreign both investments and trade. And I think the best way of getting knowledge and transfer technology is really to inviting companies both from Denmark and other countries, especially in Europe, where, of course, I myself want to promote our countries. I think we have a lot to offer and have shown that the presence of, for example, a Danish company will also be a value sharing, the way we do business in Denmark, and we have shown success in many ways. That sharing, that exposure to the ways we are doing it, and for us, the sharing of Bangladesh, how you are doing it, that exchange, if it's on respectful and equal terms, I think there's a mutual benefit that cannot be overestimated, actually.
Also, we talked about the pharmaceuticals and RMG sector. RMG sector of Bangladesh is very well known throughout the world, but there is still some problem with the labor issues. Do you recognize the same issue, and do you work for the solutions, and or you may have some suggestions?
Yes, actually, we are very strongly involved, both as we mentioned, the economic exchange, the import of ready-made garment is there, but we also work directly. Actually, I have a person in the embassy who is working with issues on working conditions, in particular in the RMG sector. I think there's a lot of challenges as an EU country. We have pointed out a lot of things that we think Bangladesh still should focus on. I think there are issues still not solved, but I think we have a good dialogue, a very constructive one. I think both the Bangladeshi government and the sector itself is very much aware they need to maintain and keep up and improve everywhere, because competition is there. Other countries stand ready to take over if Bangladesh is not there. So I think with the success already shown, I think that can continue. But we have to be, all of us, aware. The world is open. Everyone knows what is going on in each country, and it's all there to see. So I think there's still things.
There's nothing to hide.
Nothing to hide, no.
Right.
Which is a good thing.
On the discussion, I have to take a first break. দর্শক, আমরা আলোচনা করছিলাম বাংলাদেশ ডেনমার্কের সম্পর্ক নিয়ে। আমরা কথা বলছিলাম দুদেশের ব্যবসার ভবিষ্যৎ নিয়ে। এই আলোচনা চলতে থাকবে, সাথে থাকুন, ফিরছে একটা বিরতির পর। আমন্ত্রণ আরও একবার জানতে চাই, শুনতে চাই। আজকে পর্বে কথা বলছিলাম বাংলাদেশ ও ডেনমার্কের দ্বিপাক্ষিক সম্পর্কের নানা ক্ষেত্র, স্তর এবং ভবিষ্যৎ নিয়ে। Excellency, as before the break, we've been discussing about the RMG sector. We also have seen the foreign diplomats, especially from the European diplomats we have in the Bangladesh. They all are aware of the labor union issue. Why is the labor union is very important?
Labor union, or any kind of creation of institution where laborers have a voice towards the owners of factories. In my own country, the history has shown that if there is conflicting interests, and there is, if you are looking at a factory, there can be conflicts because the laborers who are doing the labor work, they want a higher salary, while the company owners will say, we want a higher profit. So it's a sharing of a piece of cake, you can say, is created. There's an inbuilt competition for having the biggest part of that or having a part of that. And in my country, there's been many conflicts, and when we had very little articulated voice, for example, from the laborers, there was violence and conflicts because there was no way of these two parts, the owners of the factories and the laborers, to talk. So the unions themselves served as an organized voice where laborers themselves internally could agree what they wanted to demand and require and negotiate on. And the factory owners, who had actually a lot of resources by being owners, they could come with their requirements, arguments about how to survive. And that is a conflict resolution. It reduces the conflicts to the benefit of both. It didn't start smoothly. Conflict was still there, but with maturity and understanding and dialogue and communication, they found out, these two parties, that they had the same interest to get more productivity, more profit, but also a sharing of it in a way that was fair. And when something is fair from both sides, it's like a business deal. If two business men or women are agreeing that they can benefit, they have a good business deal. If a labor union and a factory owner has a good deal, both benefits, then there's peace and you can start concentrating on doing work.
That's a win-win situation.
It's a win-win.
Right. Excellency, if I'm not wrong, Denmark is one of those countries where we can hardly find corruption. How is that really possible?
I think we can find corruption also in Denmark. What I think we have been emphasized on and shown to the world, and like some other countries, is the perception of corruption is very, very low. We are considered one of the lowest corrupt countries.
Yes.
We do have corruption, but when we have it, there is a zero tolerance. So I think part of not only how we look at it, there is no acceptance of corruption. The people don't accept it. If the government people, who are usually those who are corrupt, they're at least at the receiving end, that is just very illegal, and it's punishable even for the smallest element of it.
Okay.
So what it has created in Denmark is a trust in the institutions, in the government, in the law enforcement, meaning police, in the judges. And when you trust these institutions, you also start trusting your fellow people. Because if you think that your neighbor will be punished fairly if she or he does something crime, you actually also start trusting him more, because you will know that the discipline in the society is there because there is a fairness to everyone that doesn't depend on whether you are connected to a political party or you are a son of a policeman or a rich business person. You get the same treatment from the authorities. That create a fundamental trust. So corruption is not only about saving money or smooth running, it's also creating a lot of fundamental well-functioning of society because of that trust. And that's what I try to emphasize when I explain to people what corruption does to a society. It undermines trust. And that gives people a really bad feeling and a kind of uncertainty in life, which I think is unhealthy.
And how the whole society became educated on this particular issue?
It started many years ago, actually centuries ago. We had a king that was very afraid of losing power. He was an absolute powered king, but he could see that the people that he had that were collecting taxes, taxes has been known for hundreds of years. Usually they were just collected by the person in power for that more or less own use, and then of course things were also used for public use. But when his corrupt officials started creating unhappiness, he was afraid that there would be a resistance and an armed movement. So he was afraid of his own own life.
Yeah.
He was afraid the whole people would make all resistance. So he started punishing these officials very harshly, much more harshly than we would do today. But it inserted a discipline in the bureaucracy in Denmark.
You're trying to
that has
set an
stayed
example.
on. To set examples, yeah.
Yeah.
So nowadays, I think it's about teaching integrity and the value of common goods. You have to, from the birth, parents have to show that it's not dignified to be corrupt. It has to be shameful. It has to be shameful to receive bribes. If the neighbor comes back with a Mercedes-Benz that nobody can explain how she got, you will have to ask if it's been done by ill-gotten wealth, by corruption. You have to shame that person. You have to question the morality. So you have to kind of start both as a child to teach your kids that this is wrong to take something, and also put incentives for people who don't take bribes. It's not only punishment. You also have to make a career pattern that if you are showing integrity, then you also are the one who get promoted. And of course it has to come at the highest political level. There has to be a political will. And then the press have to expose those constantly who are
In this
doing wrong.
situation, the press has nothing to report. I mean, how free is the press is? I mean, press is absolutely free in your country because
Press is
if there is
absolutely
no
free.
corruption,
Yes.
if there is no illegal things,
So
no
what is the
illegal
press
business-
doing? They have nothing to
Yeah,
do.
what they really
They
do.
still have a lot to do because there's
Okay.
still people, also in my country, in my system, in my bureaucracy, there's still people, also in political powers, who are there to also look after their own needs. But because the press and the rules and the system is always following and monitoring, it's hard to do. It's not impossible. But the press is constantly there. And of course, the issues that we have are of another scale than in countries like Bangladesh or in many other countries. But they're still there. It doesn't stop. We are not just leaning back and say, now we have zero corruption or no power abuse. Now we don't have to keep an eye out. We still have to keep an eye out because keeping an eye out constantly keeps it at bay. It put people, if you are afraid of the exposure and the criminality of it, and even I think the moral shame of it, then you also have
So
some.
press is the watchdog.
The press is a very important watchdog, and you will see the press is maybe not bribery or corruption with envelopes, but government, even my own government will try to do something where they hide their motives. Then the press will grill somebody, say, look at, this will mean if you do that or if you save money on that, that will mean these people won't get that. Then the press write the story. And then the minister will be put into a studio like this one and say, Mr. Minister, we just hear from this organization that if you cut money on that hospital, then these kids will not this and that. And then the minister will have to answer these questions. This is also a controlling the power.
So everyone is accountable to everyone. It doesn't matter whoever he is or she is.
That's right.
Right.
Everyone is accountable to everyone. You have to open. Is another thing is transparency. I mean, there's a reasons for why this institution that measure perceived corruption is called Transparency International, because for Denmark, the biggest fight with against corruption is openness, transparency, that nobody can hide what they are planning to do or what they did.
On this point of discussion, I have to take another break. দর্শক, আমরা শুনছিলাম ডেনমার্কের অভিজ্ঞতা কিভাবে একটি দেশ দুর্নীতিমুক্ত থাকতে পারে এবং তারপরও সেখানকার গণমাধ্যম কতটা সোচ্চার, যে কোনো ছোটখাটো দুর্নীতি কেউ করুক বা না করুক কিংবা কারো মাথায় আসুক সে চিন্তা দুর্নীতি নিয়ে। আর আলোচনা চলতে থাকবে, সাথে থাকুন, ফিরছি একটু পর। আমন্ত্রণ আরো একবার জানতে চাই শুনতে আজকের পর্বে আমরা শুনছিলাম ডেনমার্কের অভিজ্ঞতা। Excellency, green growth is one of the biggest agenda for Denmark. I want to learn about it.
I can say in the way green growth has become some kind of slogan where you combine growth, and here we mean economic growth, with environmental friendly developments and solutions. And I think Denmark is, I can illustrate how I think actually the word has a meaning specifically. Denmark is the only country in the world that in the last 20, 30 years has really had very strong economic growth, but we have had unchanged consumption of energy. We have the same energy consumption than before when you go back 20 years. And that is because of, you can say, green growth solutions, that we produce more output, but we use much less energy. So energy efficiency is a very important part of green growth, because it means that you can actually grow in volume, but spend much less energy than you did from the outset. And Denmark is prioritizing that and has been one of the forefront countries. And we try to actually share our experience with countries like Bangladesh. Very recently, we had a very
Big program.
called Green Growth Solutions. And we had a really good chance to both explain ourselves and learn about Bangladesh's visions for becoming a green growth country.
And what is the outcome of it? How Bangladeshi people learn from it, especially the authorities?
I think Bangladesh learned both that Denmark, it's not just about buying an expensive machine that works with less consumption than another one. It's a matter of having a political vision that is quite bold. You have to have an agreement with your government and your parliament and with people that this is a way forward, because this growth and this technology and the use of it doesn't come just by leaning back and hope for the best. You have to create and adapt your tax system, for example. You have to kind of choose those energies that you don't want to use as much of, for example, coal. You have to make that more expensive and make it cheaper to use some of the alternative energy sources. Because people don't like expensive things and they don't want change. So it's a matter of explaining, but we need to do it. And then slowly our industries started adapting to very strict regulations and developed their own technology that could then be used when the other countries started doing the same thing, because the world needs to change.
Yeah.
Bangladesh is the best example and the best country to begin understanding what happens if we don't, as a collective world. But Bangladesh also, I think, herself can benefit so much, not only for the world's climate, but for its own green development. And I think there's a lot of things there that was taken back from that seminar. But that seminar, of course, is not going to solve the issues. We will constantly work with Bangladesh. And
but Bangladesh is moving forward to the coal-based power plant.
Yes.
Ain't that going to harm to the nature, right?
Yes.
So how did you share these things along with in the conference? Because the government is trying to make a lot of coal-based power plant. You know, coal-based power plant have a lot of an effect on the nature that may harm the green growth as well.
Yeah.
If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we didn't speak specifically about what the government is doing. We are not interfering, of course, in choices of Bangladesh.
Okay.
We are trying to point out where there could be a risk. Of course, it's obvious that using coal as an energy source has a lot of disadvantages. We also realize that there's a big energy use and you also want economic growth. We try to point out that it's not necessarily contradictions between ensuring growth economically and using other sources of energy. It takes time to adapt to that, and you can't replace one with another quickly. And you also have to look at how you spend your money. We are limited. So we try to share the experiences, because Denmark also went through difficult times where we were depending on energy sources that were not good for the environment.
Excellency, as we see in the whole world, the new threat, apart from the climate, is that the terrorism and the growing terrorism.
Yes.
It doesn't matter in France or Dhaka or in USA, we see a lot of young people going there, and that's kind of very disappointment.
Yes.
How we really can stop it? What do you think?
I have deep sympathy for Bangladesh and for the Bangladeshi people in this situation. My own country, of course, like you just mentioned a few other Western countries, Denmark has also been prone both to terrorist attack and to growing extremism among certain people. This is something we all struggle with. And I think we need to do many things at the same time. These things are very complex. Extremism, of course, also comes with dissatisfaction. Sometimes it's needs that are not addressed. Sometimes it's frustration with governments, politicians, or the life. It can be unemployment. When you are not feeling optimistic about your own future, I think you're just more sensitive and more listening to people who can offer you something easy solution.
Yeah.
Populism thrives from that. Extremism thrives from that. So I think for us in Denmark, we are trying to work also a lot with the prevention. We try to understand what the movements are. We try to learn where they are. And then we have, of course, very hardcore security measures as well. Law enforcement,
Yeah.
security measures, preventive measures, very, very close cooperation with other countries. That is what we have learned. No country can do these things alone.
Right.
And most of these extremists are working across borders. They're actually very happy to have sources and resources between each other. So just like our own countries and governments and people become international, terrorism is also international. And that means that we need to draw
Work
on each
together.
other. We need to work very closely together. So that is also one measure that I think is very important, that we share information about the threat, we recognize where it is, and then we don't only do law enforcement, we also try to find out how it grows. What is it we in the society maybe do wrong to not include these people?
Right.
Not all of them will say, okay, I just need a job, but some of them may be frustrated by other things than what we think they are frustrated about.
Right. And we are about to end the show, but before the, ending, I would like to know that the Bangladesh is on a mission to become a middle-income country. What could be really the biggest challenge to need to be addressed right now? What do you think?
I think one of the challenges for Bangladesh is to, first of all, I really respect the vision. I think it's a very ambitious vision, and I think it's very realistic. But diversification, I think, is one word I would use.
Okay.
Because Bangladesh has a lot of in the ready-made garment industry. I think it's very important also to diverse the focus and getting more other industries in, and also be open to foreign investments and also imports. Because if you want to be a big exporter, I always say most successful exporting countries are also very successful importing countries.
Yes.
The whole engagement with other countries, I think, is a positive thing, because it will develop and it will expose your own industry to both competition, which is healthy, but also to technology, knowledge, and people who will try. So that, I think, is a challenge for Bangladesh, to kind of maybe open a little bit more to foreign and private investments, and then really diversify and find other strengths. I know there's already many other sectors, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, food processing, many potential areas where we as Danish people would love to cooperate more.
Thank you, thank you. It's been really a learning experience from you, and thank you for coming to the
Thank
show.
you very much for having me. Thank you.
দর্শক, আমরা আলোচনা করছিলাম বাংলাদেশ ডেনমার্ক সম্পর্কে দ্বিপাক্ষিক এবং ভবিষ্যৎ বিভিন্ন বিষয় নিয়ে। বাংলাদেশের জন্য বৌদ্ধ আয়ের দেশ হওয়ার জন্য সবচেয়ে বড় চ্যালেঞ্জ হচ্ছে গিয়ে পণ্যের বহুমুখীকরণ। সেটা ব্যবসার ক্ষেত্রে হতে পারে, যে কোনো ক্ষেত্রে হতে পারে। আমাদের এই আলোচনা চলতে থাকবে। দেখা হবে আগামী পর্বে অন্য কোনো অতিথির সাথে।